On Tuesday, the Jets shocked the sports world by firing head coach Robert Saleh yesterday. And on the Pat McAfee show, which was yesterday, by the way, was the first time we got to hear from Aaron Rodgers about the move. He had an interesting view on the situation. I wanted you guys to take a listen. Listen up.
As far as any of the ridiculous allegations out there, I'm not going to spend more than one sentence in response to it, and that is that I resent any of those accusations because they're patently false. And it's interesting the amount of power that people think that I have, which I don't. But I love Robert, and it was, one of those days yesterday.
Dan Orlovsky, you heard him. Does the man have any power? Do you believe anything that Aaron Rodgers said out of his mouth the other day on the Pat McAfee show?
I absolutely believe him. It's what side of naive are you going to sit on with this one, Stephen A? Are you going to be naive to think that this move was made and Aaron didn't have any type of knowledge that they're going to fire a head coach 5 or 6 days before you're playing on a game with Monday Night Football and the chance to be in first place? Are you going to believe that? Or are you going to believe that Aaron had absolutely nothing to do with it and no knowledge of it? You're sitting on one side or the other. Now, I think it's hard for me to sit there and believe that Aaron didn't have any type of inkling or the owner didn't intimate in some capacity, hey, like, I'm not happy with where we are. And I also find it hard to believe, in other words, I'm saying, like, I'm also going to take Aaron at his word. I don't have any belief or understanding that Aaron's going to go and lie about that, okay? So it's what side of the naive do you want to sit on? I'm taking Aaron at his word. I'm taking Aaron and knowing that, yeah, he had a conversation, but there wasn't anything about, hey, I'm thinking about firing Robert Saleh or I'm going to move in a different direction. What are your thoughts? There might have been conversation about him being unhappy with the way that the football team was playing, specifically on offensively. But I'm taking Aaron at his word and saying that he didn't have any hand with what happened with Robert Saleh.
Go ahead, Jay.
I believe part of what you're saying. I do believe that this was a Woody Johnson decision. But to your point, he said that Woody Johnson said he spoke to Rodgers that night before firing Robert Saleh. There's nowhere they were on the phone and has not mentioned that, hey, I'm thinking about moving on from the head coach. With that in mind, is this Rodgers' decision? Absolutely not. I think you look at Robert Saleh's head coaching tenure with the Jets, they were 20-36. They weren't winning football games. So as a head coach, that is your job. When you're not doing that, we see coaches get fired every single year for losing football games. I think it has had more to say about the accountability issues. Rodgers said it. Quincy Williams, a leader on their defense, he said they had accountability issues. That tends to fall on the head coach. Does Rodgers have a hand in it? Absolutely. The offense hasn't performed on the football field, and that is part of the reasons they're not winning games. We see it the past 2 weeks. I know they're going against the Vikings and the Broncos, which are good defenses, but a Rodgers-led offense hasn't performed, and those things lead to a head coach being let go. So because of that, he had a hand in it.
Well, listen, I didn't see the whole interview in its entirety, and props to Pat McAfee for having Aaron Rodgers. But I will say this. None of us are fools here. The reality is, you're Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, you didn't go into the office and say, I want him fired. You didn't go into the office and say, I want him out. That may be true, Dio. That may be true, J-Mac. But don't act like you're completely oblivious to what was going on, what the tenor of the situation was like, how things were eroding before our very eyes, and that the owner wouldn't take notice of all of these things. And somehow, some way, when y'all got on the phone with one another, y'all were talking about the chocolate chip cookies and the milk that you were drinking and eating and chewing on and stuff like that. And you were talking about each other's family. And it was really, and I'm just concerned, how are you feeling? Just stop that nonsense. It's amazing how it's so difficult for folks to just simply tell the truth. There are plenty of decisions that bosses make that we have nothing to do with and we have no part of. That's true. But in the same breath, it's not like we're completely oblivious and not cognizant of what the hell is going on. And when Aaron Rodgers tried to give that impression, that's when I think the believability factor went out the window. But with all of that being said, I'll ask y'all this, and I'll come back to you first on this, J-Mac. How much pressure's on Rodgers right now to turn this Jet season around?
Oh, it's a ton. What you going to do now? Like, that's what they're waiting to see. Saleh's gone. We put the blame on him. So now for Rodgers in his offense, what's going to change about it? He said it yesterday. It's insanity to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. Well, Nathaniel Hackett's been the offensive coordinator now for 2 seasons. They haven't had the success that they're hoping for. Is Todd Downing now going to become the play caller? Are they going out to get Davante Adams? What's changing about this offense that's going to make it go? You just fired your head coach. I don't know if we've ever seen a coach get fired in the middle of the season and and then the team go on a Super Bowl run. So what now is going to shoulder on Rodgers is going to be on Rodgers' shoulder to change something. And I think that's what everybody's looking forward to now because the defense has been playing well. Robert Saleh, a defensive guy, they have figured it out. Offensively, that's where all the question marks lie. And now, to me, it falls squarely on Rodgers to fix that.
Go ahead, Dio.
Okay.
You may speak. You may speak. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So, rule follower.
There you go.
Most pressure in the NFL. And he came in, Aaron Rodgers came into this season with the most pressure on him in the NFL. And this only exacerbates that. Okay, one of the best rosters in the NFL. When it comes to top to bottom roster, as far as talent, no question. Number two, this was a historic draft class a couple seasons ago where they had the defensive rookie of the year in Sauce Gardner and the offensive rookie of the year in Garrett Wilson on that football team. The left tackle is a Hall of Famer. You have two backs that are unbelievably dynamic and thought of very highly around the NFL. You have a young star defensive tackle in Quincy Williams at linebacker has been fantastic. DJ Reed opposite Sauce Gardner has played phenomenal. This is a phenomenal roster. Here's the other part of this. There's one team in your division that matters. Miami's going through a lot of ups and downs without Tua and where's his health and whatnot. But New England's just making a roster change at quarterback because they're 1-4 and they're going to play a rookie. Buffalo's the only team that you got to get through. There's tons of pressure right now. And Stephen A., I've said this, J-Mac, I've said this, and people disagree with me. The acquisition of Rodgers, if they don't make some type of noise in the playoffs, it goes down as one of the worst acquisitions in the history of the NFL because of the situation that he went into.
Rodgers, to me, you do have an excuse if you run into Patrick Mahomes and you lose to him. Nobody else. You're Aaron Rodgers. You should be able to beat anybody else. I don't give a damn who it is that you're going up against. You should be able to find a way with the roster that they have, especially if they go out and get Davante Adams, which is a subject for later on in the show. I'll say that. But I also want to point this out. The man has thrown 96 passes in the last 2 games. He's thrown more passes each week since week 1. That's not what you're expecting to require from a 40-year-old, particularly one with the running game. And when I look at that, I'm saying to myself, there's definitely discombobulation on the offensive side of the ball. How much level of culpability should be placed on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders? I say most of it for this one reason and one reason only, the existence of Nathaniel Hackett. I don't think Robert Saleh, that was somebody that he wanted. I don't think that's somebody that anybody wanted after that debacle that transpired in Denver. Yet still, Aaron Rodgers plucked him out, got him on there as your offensive coordinator, then ultimately play calling responsibilities were confiscated from him. So we look at all of that, and in the end, what we're here to say is, that may not be the right move. This is all on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders. That's where we're going from there. Should Davante Adams, having said all of that, reconsider his interest in the New York Jets, J-Mac? That's what I want to know from you.
No, because where else is he going to go? I think there's other teams. I said it last week that the Washington Commanders I thought was the best fit. Are the Commanders willing to give up a second-round draft pick, a third-round draft pick?
They should.
When they have a rookie quarterback that is only ascending, that their roster is going to continue to get better with those draft picks? Or do you go out and make that trade? Are the Buffalo Bills, is he willing to go there? He talked about the Saints. Well, they just lost Derek Carr for multiple weeks. When is he going to be back healthy?
Hold on, J-Mac. What's wrong with Davante Adams ain't worth a second-round pick?
Heavenly Father, he is.
No, he's not. Because we've heard for 2 weeks that they want a second-round draft pick. Davante Adams is on what team right now, Dano?
The Las Vegas Raiders.
He's on the Las Vegas Raiders. You're only worth what the market is willing to pay for you. I could have been a cornerback and been a free agent, and I could have said, hey, I'm worth $70 million.
Excuse me.
If no one wants to pay me $70, I'm not worth it.
Are you still talking when I tried to interrupt? Did you just interrupt me with the interruption? Did I not tell you
you
speak when
interrupted me when I was
spoken to?
talking.
I did, because wait a minute here. You bring me to Las Vegas Raiders, and I'm saying to you, him as a second-round pick on a squad that's making noise, you trying to tell me Davante Adams, the all-world wide receiver that he is not worth a second-round pick? Don't give me the market. I'm asking you about his abilities. What is his talent worth? You trying to tell me he's not worth a second-round pick?
Yes, his talent, yes. Davante is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, if not the best. But when we're talking about worth, it is not determined by those other things. The main variable is what someone is willing to give up. If no one's willing to give up a second-round draft pick, because last week all the insiders said this was the week that it was going to happen. Well, now it is Thursday. It's not going to happen this week. So next week is someone all of a sudden saying, you know what? We lost on Sunday. Let's give him that second-round draft pick. If he gets traded for a third or a fourth, then that determines what he is worth on the open market for a trade. If no one's willing to give up a second-round draft pick, then he's not worth it. Mohamed Sanu went for a second-round draft pick.
Okay.
Someone would have said talent-wise he wasn't worth it. When I was with the New England Patriots, we thought he was worth that second-round draft pick, whether it worked out or it didn't.
All right. That answers my question. Go ahead, DL.
Yeah, if you don't think he's worth the second-round draft pick, we don't watch the same games of football. And I know you're not saying that, J-Mac.
Yes.
Number one, there's only one team in my eyes that gets closer to a Super Bowl adding Davante Adams. It's the New York Jets. That gets closer to the Super Bowl. I understand people are saying Washington. I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah,
Obviously,
team-wise.
a much improved football team, but are they really closer to a real Super Bowl win? Don't believe that. Baltimore, I don't see it as well because then you're taking a Likely or an Andrews or a Patrick Ricard off the field, and that's the identity of your offense. So I don't see that. The Buffalo Bills, J-Mac brought up before, I get that one. They got to get healthy on defense for me to really think of them as a bona fide Super Bowl contender. It's the Jets. And I remember sitting, Stephen A., J-Mac, I remember sitting with Davante 2 years ago for doing a Week 18 game and asking about what he thought about his legacy and where he stood, and he said, I want to be known as one of the all-time greats. And I think that still matters to him. If we have the conversation, Stephen A., if I ask you, J-Mac, who are the best receivers in football right now? I guarantee you're going to say the names of like a Justin Jefferson, a Jamar Chase, a Nico Collins, a CeeDee Lamb. Shoot, you might even say a Malik Neighbors before you say Davante Adams. Because in some people's eyes, some people's eyes, we've forgotten about them because they don't win. And they don't play Stephen A.
The Giants, that makes no sense, Dan. The Giants ain't winning. The Giants ain't winning. If we would remember Malik Neighbors, why would we not remember Davante Adams? Now that's an ignorant statement.
When was the last time you watched the Raiders game?
Excuse me?
Exactly, because they don't play in those big-time games, right? They're not in.
Wait a minute. I barely watched the Giants.
But you saw them on national TV 2 weeks ago when he had
they were on national TV.
37 targets. But my point is, we don't get to see Davante that much because they're not a team that's winning. They don't have a big-time quarterback. They're not in a massive market. And so a lot of people have forgotten about Davante.
Right. Let me throw this out to y'all. Changing subjects before I move on from the Jets. I want to remind y'all about something. Put J-Mac and DLO on the screen, please. Remember when the Packers fired Mike McCarthy mid-season 2018? Just want to read a quote from y'all from Aaron Rodgers at the time to notice if y'all remember if y'all notice any similarities. It's a close-knit relationship. He's talking about his relationship with him and McCarthy. I would finish every time that we talked, whether it's Monday afternoon up on his office or the Thursdays you used to spend in the team room or Fridays upstairs or Saturdays in the quarterback room. And we'd hug each other and tell each other we love each other. I mean, we had a close-knit bond. Again, I don't need to respond to every person out there who's got an opinion. That just opens a whole door of stuff that I don't want to be a part of. Sound familiar? Doesn't that sound familiar?
You said a lot of the same stuff yesterday.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Maybe a quarterback in that position.
You do know that once Matt LaFleur arrived, we talked about how things were archaic and things weren't great. Remember how those quotes came out thereafter? But those were the quotes upon his immediate firing.
Maybe he means it.
I'm just saying.
He loves his coach.
We watch everything, and we keep receipts. That's all I want to say. That's all I wanted to say.